All right, good morning. I'm Sherelle, and I am in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, hi, Miss Phoenix. I'm Farron Spottelson. I am currently in Lubritsi, Russia, which is right outside of Moscow.
Okay.
I'm Lindsay.
I'm
I'm from Michigan.
Michigan. What part of Michigan?
So I'm in Grand Rapids, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
my mom's from Detroit.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
my mom's from Detroit, and my dad is from Youngstown, Ohio. And the only reason their marriage worked is because my mom doesn't care about sports.
That's funny.
Not sure if it's my time to go or not, but my name's Teresa Heritage, and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona as well.
and I guess that leaves me. I figured I'd let all you ladies go first. I don't really want to speak. Forgive me. I'm not feeling well. I am sick. The joy of having children. So that's another reason why I want to go last. But once again, I am Bruce Novak. I am in Queen Creek, Arizona. For those of you that are in Arizona, to narrow it down. But for the rest of you, Phoenix, Arizona is good enough.
All righty. So today's topic is, I wrote it down, is the stress of being a student. And I pulled two different studies on this. They're more geared towards nursing students. Um, the second study actually took place in Australia, but they actually study different demographics. So we're talking nursing students in Britain, Canada, and in Spain. And then the first study that I was actually looking at before that one, they just looked at senior undergraduate nursing students. They didn't specify an actual location where they were. So the first one that I'm going to go over is, where are my notes? Is from a journal that was titled Assessing Stress, Protective Factors, and Psychological Well-Being among Undergraduate Nursing Students. And so with this study, what they were looking at is nursing students across the world, the stress, which was a significant negative effect on the psychological well-being, along with the internal factors such as self-efficacy on these students. And then they looked at the internal factors such as self-efficacy, resilience, and mindfulness, and what type of positive effect that it would have on the students. And then one of the external factors they were looking at was social support, so family, friends, spouses. Some of these students had children. And then they also noticed that the older the student, the higher and lower psychological well-being, that there's some differences in those areas. So the higher the stress, the lower the psychological well-being. And this was done in comparison to younger groups that they studied. Now, the amount of students that were actually studied, they did send out invitations for 1,760 students. Of those, 657 sent back their response. Now, not everybody completed the response, so they could only use 538 responses. So that's kind of where we're at with this first study. So this study was actually conducted on online nursing students.
So they're already stressed out because they're online.
Yes, so they were already stressed out because they're online. And it was funny because, you know, a lot of these students kind of relieve their stress through drugs, drinking, you know, just different things. They had different moods, anxiety, eating disorders were developed.
Okay. Did it say what specific drugs they were taking?
It didn't. It just said overall drugs.
Okay.
So it could be anything pretty much to kind
Probably like cocaine to help them stay up while they're studying.
of, yeah.
Mhm.
And then,
Maybe Adderall.
so the stressors for each group were a little different. The Spanish students reported that they were stressed about clinical practice. British students said they were stressed about clinical placement. And then the Australian students, which were second year students, they had a whole group of stressors. So for them, it was academic, financial, interpersonal, and health. Then, you know, like I said, their supports were family, partners, and spouses, children, and their friends. So it was kind of interesting to read it. They were saying that the um, postulation of PWB among the Australian students, pretty much they had a negative effect. It was, you know, it was interesting to read, but it's kind of hard to really understand it just because you know, just reading it was a little bit much. But the internal factors they said, such as self-efficacy, resilience, and mindfulness, did have or would have a positive effect on the PWB. But comparing, you know, including the external factors like social support also would make a positive PWB. Now, do keep in mind these studies are new. One was from 2018 and one was from 2019. So they're still continuing their studies. They haven't finished yet fully studying this, as, you know, across the board, all students are stressed. And so they're finally realizing like, hey, school is a stressor. And along with everything else that they're, you know, people are doing, that, you know, it adds on. It's not just stress from work and families anymore.
Right. Unfortunately, we don't live in a world where you can be a college student and just be a college student. You know, we all have to work full time. Most of us, if not all of us, are taking student loans. We all have wacky schedules. So there's so many factors that go in to being stressed in general, and then adding on all of your assignments, doing them to the quality that you need them to be, citing everything correctly, getting everything done on time. Like it's insane, the stress in any major.
Now, a question that I want to ask is, because I'm kind of new to this this format. So, is this going to be like a group session where we take the data that you supply to us and we discuss it as far as how it pertains to us as students, or our discussion, I guess, on the related topic? How exactly is that going to format out? Especially if it would be at least 40 minutes, I think it says.
Yeah, I think we're only allowed 40 minutes of recording when you have more than 2 people.
Yeah, and that was something I did inform her of, but I haven't heard back. But what
I'm sorry that for some reason my camera's not working, so I don't know why. It says that Zoom can't access my camera, so I don't know if you guys probably can't see me, right?
No, but we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see your name. We can hear you.
I don't know why.
We know you're here.
Okay. I don't know what's going on.
Your camera's not working. I'm upside down.
It's all
Zoom
good.
Thing is it's a challenge.
So
Right.
I think it has to do with the topics. I still haven't really got a full, clear understanding. I think a lot of us have kind of asked the question, but we still are, you know, grasping at straws, trying to really fully understand what we're doing in terms of the group therapy.
So it's not going to be 2 hours then?
No, because it won't allow us the full 2 hours. And I did let her know, like, hey, you know, it doesn't allow full 2 hours unless we pay for, you know, an upgrade. Do you want us to pay for this, or do we just do whatever's allotted? I haven't heard back, so we're just gonna do what's allotted.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 40 minutes should be enough, and if it's not, then the school should pay for it. That's not really fair.
I agree.
But I mean, I like Bruce's idea. We can all kind of go around and talk about how the topic relates to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, forgive me as I keep looking off to the side. I have my tablet hooked up to my computer so that I have dual screens and I can see you guys, and I can kind of look over the instructor's guide, scoring guide. So I'm trying to get an idea of how this group, I figured that's how she's going to grade this. This is how we should go ahead and probably keep so there's two parts. One part is, our contributions, the student specific contributions. Part two is completed the checklist, checkbox related to relevant material. So that would be Sherelle's part. I would assume. I don't know if Sherelle, did you read that?
I did. So each person who is the leader of the week gets graded on their part and being the team lead.
Okay. So that's more so for you, and then. All right. Well, we'll. You know what? It does say also that after we turn in the first weeks, and Sherelle and I did discuss how I appreciate the fact that she's willing to fall on the sword on this one and be the guinea pig as to how the rest of us are going to go. So once again, thank you. So we'll just kind of see what the instructor tells us what we need to improve on or where we need to work. So, so whoever would like to kick the ball rolling, we can talk about our stress.
Oh God, you don't want to hear about the stresses I'm having. No, I mean, I think the stresses of being a student and especially working full time is finding the time to sit down and do your assignments and get them done to the caliber that they need to be done. You know, we're master students. Everything is APA. Everything has to be an academic source. So you actually have to search for relevant articles and then you have to read them, and it can be frustrating because when you just type in a subject into the GCU library, you get stuff that may not be completely relevant to what you need for your exact assignment.
Yep.
So that alone, I mean, the research part of actually doing the discussion questions in the papers, that takes a really big chunk of time as well. So it's just, you know, doing your research for the topic, having an understanding of exactly what you have to do, making sure that, you know, you fit the word count, making sure that you turn things in on time, and then also being able to get enough sleep. And they're always saying that we have to make time to do things for us. Like if you like yoga, make sure you make time to do that, because or else you're going to get burnt out. But the reality of it is when you're a full-time student and you're working full-time, it's essentially impossible, especially financially, to be able to, you know, go out and go to the gym, or if you like concerts, going out to concerts. So it's a really, really hard balance. And then of course, if you're social, which I'm not, so I technically don't have this problem, but if you're a social person, you have no time to go out and be with friends and, you know, go for drinks or go for dinner. So, I mean, finding time to actually like do everything is insane, and it's extremely stressful, especially with technology and us being online. If your computer crashes, what are you going to do? There's only so much you can type up on your phone and make sure everything's done correctly.
Yep, it is so true.
Yeah.
I would, and I totally agree, especially when it comes going back to that study, the high rate of substance use. Once again, like Farron had said, not having that social outlet to be able to have some downtime would lead people even to substance, like going out and having drinks with your friends and stuff, would be more so the social aspect of unleashing and releasing some tension. But the problem is that without having that social outlet, it would lead into use of substances, not so much to release, but to find stimulation for late night cramming, stimulation to keep up with projects. So Adderall, stimulants, methamphetamine, so on and so forth. The list goes on. And then there's that using in isolation. which then causes the more mental aspect of the disease of addiction. I think that would be more prevalent with students. So I can definitely see how that would be prevalent with amongst our population.
I agree too, because I actually worked at a mental health hospital in the substance abuse care unit, and it's so easy to get caught up and not even realize you're caught up. And especially now that in Michigan, at least, the opioid epidemic they're trying to decrease that, and so methamphetamine production has skyrocketed, especially in Grand Rapids. So
That's a scary thought.
it is scary. And so a lot of our investigation cases for CPS have to do with methamphetamine production. And it's like, so I understand the substance use, but also like as a student, so I'm almost 40 and I went back to school in my 30s and work full time, and I hate my job. And I actually have a job interview next week, and it's just, yeah, it's incredibly difficult to try to go to school and work a job that doesn't have consistent hours, because if somebody calls in with a complaint, which I live in Grand Rapids, so it happens every 5 seconds, then you have to go out, and it doesn't matter what time. If you get off work at 4:30 and an investigation comes in at 4:28, it doesn't matter. You're going out. And I mean, I was out until 8:30 on Wednesday and didn't get home because we had the tornado warning till like 9:30, and it was just, yeah. And we ended up not having power or internet, so we had to stay in a hotel. And my husband is in school full time too, so. In addition to all of that, I have anxiety and panic disorder, which is awesome. So, you know, I handle stress a lot differently, and sometimes it manifests itself into a negative space. And I know it, but I can't seem to like get myself out of it. And I don't take medication for it because I don't like to. And I'm a psych major, but I still don't like to. And I usually have pretty good control, but when everything's kind of piles on like this class and no one knows what's going on and the professor won't get back, and you know, I've got a job that can, it's just like, you know, my husband's like, it'll be okay, you know, and I'm just like, I don't know how, you know. And so it's just a lot of for me, stress is the unknown and not being able to control what's going on around me, which is life, but that's like, you know, it definitely manifests itself into a different entity for me, as I'm sure it does for a lot, you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way. I'm very organized and I like things done a certain way. So if there's something that's unknown to me, I completely panic. Like I have to have my list, I have to have everything organized. And especially with something like this class, like it's been an extra stress on top of just being a student, because you know, we all live in different places, and me living the furthest away and trying to, you know, be able to get onto an actual set schedule with everyone, that's not fair to, you know, leave someone out, or, you know, have to do like multiple different sessions to try and make it work. Like it's just, I don't know, this whole aspect is just, it's extra stress. And I think it's for everyone as well, because even though I think 3 of you said you still live in Arizona, you guys probably all work different hours too. So it's not like everyone works 9 to 5, and most of us work in some type of behavioral health. And like Lindsay was saying, those hours are unpredictable. You know, just because you're scheduled to be there from, I don't know, 9 to 6 o'clock, if you get a call, or you know, if a patient's going down and something happens, you can't just leave and clock out. That's not reality. So I definitely think work can be an extra stress on the whole student aspect.
I think for me it's a little interesting. I actually work for GCU, but I have a 2-year-old, and so trying to manage terrible 2 and work full time and then go to school, it's an interesting amount of stress. But I will say that at first it was consuming me. And recently I've kind of got to a point where I'm rediscovering like my passions and my hobbies and stuff. And I've gotten into growing plants, indoor and outdoor. I have a garden and running a lot. And I feel like having an outlet has been so vital for me to be successful in everything I'm doing and not have that stress. Because I also have anxiety disorder. And so I feel like having things to do outside of school for yourself is so important. But that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because I'm a mom. I have 4 kids.
Oh my Lord.
Oh my goodness.
I work for the state. I work for the state of Arizona, and I've been there 5 years. Now, when I decided, okay, I want to go back for my second master's in mental health, I had left the prison because I was working for DOC.
Wow.
And they have a high population of mental health that needs help. So I switched over and I'm on the other side of the state. I work for DES and I work for DDD. So I deal with families that have children with developmental disabilities. And I like it. Like, I love my job with them. All my littles are so awesome. But being a mom of 4, I have 2 biological and then I have my niece and nephew. So I have 2 of each, 2 girls, 2 boys. I don't know what's more stressful, having a job, going to school, or having 4 kids. Because
Probably the 4 kids.
when you come home from work and then you're like, okay, it's time for dinner, it's time for showers. I'm lucky that I have the family support that I do. My ex-husband's mom, she helps me a lot with the kids. So she drops them off at school, she picks them up from school, she gets them fed. So when I get them, all I have to worry about is, okay, it's this time, you need to get showers, and then in about another hour, it's time for bed. Now, mind you, their ages range from 11 years old to 9.5 months. So it's not like, they're, yeah.
You're phenomenal.
So it's
rock star.
The whole family thing is what makes it a little bit for me, because the older ones are like, no, it's the weekend and we want to stay up, and you're trying to do homework and you need that quiet time to really focus, and then they're coming in and out asking questions and, can I eat this? Can I watch this? What are we going to do tomorrow? Can we go here?
Are we there yet?
Oh my gosh, like, it's nonstop. And then you have a 9-month-old that doesn't want to go to bed, and he's still awake trying to look out the window and it's dark outside. And you're like, hey man, shut the blinds down and come here. It does get a little crazy. So, and then on top of that, my mom had a stroke, so I've been dealing with all of her stuff. She's almost fully recovered. But even with that, it's making time for her appointments and making sure that I'm available when they call me and they're like, hey, we need you for a care meeting, or having to go sit at Social Security. It's not just caring for yourself and then your immediate family. Some, they don't realize you're caring for other people too on top of it. And then trying to schedule vacations. Because we're used to going on vacation. So it's looking at everybody's schedule. Okay, the kids are off on break on, this month, and this month. And then I got to schedule around school. Work is not a problem. We can, luckily we're able to work from home if we need to work from home. So sometimes I will squeeze school in when I'm working from home, just to keep up with everything that I need to keep up with.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you make me feel bad for having stress, honestly, like, listening. That's a lot.
Where's your mom? Is she in a facility?
She is in a nursing facility right now.
Don't say Coronado.
Oh no, she's at North Mountain.
Thank God. Okay, I used to work for Coronado Healthcare Center off of 19th Avenue in Cactus.
Okay.
Don't ever put anybody there. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, that's good to know.
But I know about care meetings. So when you said that, I had a feeling she was in a place. So I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, so she is, but she's getting ready to come home soon, so I'm trying to get everybody geared up for that. And
Okay.
but it's just so much work. And then, like I said, when you pair it with school, you're trying to juggle and wear so many different hats. So, I mean, in a way, like when I hear people that are going to school have a substance problem, it's
Mhm.
not really that shocking.
No,
Mhm.
not at all.
It's not. I mean, I even like my first time going to college, I did try to attend ASU and actually left because I was like, this is not for me. This is not my
Mhm.
type of environment. I stayed in the dorms near Frat Row, and my roommate would come crawling in on Monday at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're literally passing each other. I'm going to class, and she's crawling in
Oh
after being
God.
gone all weekend and just partying all weekend, so it doesn't surprise me. It's, you know, really what has to happen is there has to be ways, for the schools to find healthy outlets for students
Mhm.
instead of just like, this is your schedule and you got to do this and you got to meet this and you have all these deadlines and, you're trying to figure it all out.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
I'm probably the only one here that does not work in the field, not even close to what we're studying. I'm actually all my training's in the technical field, so I am a technician for semiconductor industry. Your internet, your computers, everything that you're doing, that's all stuff that I worked on. No, I'm not so technical that I understand this Zoom thing. So just before we answer any questions on that. But I also have, I actually have, through marriage, now I have 7 children. But I know I'm getting a message here.
You
You
see
Okay.
have
that?
unlimited?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just, yeah.
Ah, look at
Okay.
that. Okay.
Well, hopefully, I saw the message that Cheryl had sent out, so hopefully she'll answer that back. We'll figure out what needs to be done there. But the many hats I can really respect. I work 6 at night till 6 in the morning. Like I said, it's a complete technical field, so I shut everything off as best as I possibly can from school, from what I learned here, because it does not apply to my current job. Um, I am involved in recovery ministries as well as a recovery group for my own personal being, for my own past. So that's the only thing that ties me into this training. But at the same time, it's a completely different hat because I'm on the other side of what we're learning. And then I have right now, my youngest children are 10-year-old twins. They are, as much as I'd like that, I only complain to their face because it's just a typical parent thing. I don't want them to get too big of heads, but they're actually really great kids. They encourage me to stay in school all the
Oh,
time.
that's
So
awesome. That's
so yeah,
fantastic.
so I get that. Substance use because of my past is not something that comes to mind. I'd rather quit school than do that, but I can definitely see the stress. I get burned out. I've been taking a lot of 2-week breaks between classes because of the fact that I can't keep up with the whole load. We just sent my wife's daughter to college, so we had to fly out to New York to set her up in college. So I've been dealing with the transition of a move, as well as the empty nester syndrome for my wife, because that was her youngest daughter going,
Mhm.
which gives me an instance. I'm a guy, so I'm not as attached to my children as women are. But I can totally get the whole, my child's gone and now is on the other side of the nation. My children don't leave that much. I mean, they're within 20-minute drive of dad's house. So we're all kind of meshed
Yeah.
together. We're tight
Yeah.
family. Whereas most children want to get away from their parents, my children are
Yeah.
all kind of want to stay close to dad a little bit. So
Yeah,
kind of as
you
a
and my mom
protective
should
factor.
like create like a group meeting or something. My mom is completely panicking. Not only did I just move, but she's like, of all like countries there in Russia, like you've always like, I've seen you at least once a week. Like,
My heart goes out to your mom. I could only imagine what that would be like. So,
My
but
mom is actually in Germany right now for 2 months.
oh wow,
Yeah,
what's she doing in Germany?
so her niece lives there, and my mom loves a deal. So, so she's staying over there and doing like trips and stuff. My mom and I aren't close. She lives on the other side of the state. We haven't seen each other in a year. But yeah, so I have the exact opposite with her. She's the one who leaves, not me. So.
So
yeah,
well, I was going to ask this, and we got everybody here, and so we've all been doing this for a while, is what I'm gathering from everybody. So how does everybody deal with that stress? I mean, if I keep taking 2 weeks between classes, for my example, I'm going to graduate when I just turned 50, so I'm going to graduate when I'm 70. What am I going to do with a degree at 70 years old? It's time to retire and wrap it up.
Burnout is really real. Like, I'm not even going to lie. Like, so I got my associate's degree, and then while I hadn't even walked the stage with my associate's degree, and I had already started my bachelor's degree. So then after my bachelor's degree, I took like a month break because I was like, oh, I want, what else is there for me to do? So then I started my master's degree, and I have my master's in justice administration. At that time, I was still in the prison. And then when I switched jobs, I finished that one. So I had been looking at mental health, and going back. But out here, I was like, man, I cannot find what I'm looking for. Like, I know what I want. I know exactly the type of program. I can't find it out here. So I was looking at going to San Antonio and going to UTSA because they do have it over there. And then plus, like, literally the only two people out here in Arizona in terms of family are just me and my mother. Everybody else, I mean, I don't understand this. Everybody else is still in San Antonio. I'm talking my grandmother, my aunts and uncles, like my brother, they're all over there. So I was going to go and I was going to enroll in UTSA. But then I was working and just so many different things had happened. My sister passed. I took my niece in. It was like kind of chaotic. So I went back to University of Phoenix, but I still was like not happy. And I was like, okay, this is what I want. So then I finally found it at GCU. And I was like, oh, and I don't have to pay to get into the program because University of Phoenix, they pay. So literally, like, when I say burnout is real, I mean, it literally is. Like, for a while, I was like, oh man, I want to kind of just pause for a little bit. But then I was like, no, because I already started. I might as well just keep going and finish. So I go to church. I do volunteering when I can, when I have the energy. I run my own business, so, and it's something another thing that I like doing, so it doesn't bother me. So, when I'm getting orders in, it's something that makes me happy. And then, like I said, I travel with the kids. Like, I'll make time to go on little weekend trips. So we've been looking at like going to the beach before summer's over, and possibly going to San Antonio to see everybody during Christmas break. So it's just like little things. And then, like, when my mother-in-law says, oh, I'm going to take the kids and we're going to go do this. So then during that time, I only have one child with me. So I just kind of take time for myself and just lay around, take a nap, watch TV, or, just different little things. It's all in like finding what our outlet is and what makes us happy. It can be a little hard. I'm not a very social person my own self. So like I have to make myself be sociable sometimes. And like I have friends, but I can go months without talking to them. It doesn't really bother me.
Right. I always joke around. I always say, I just hate people. Like, I told one of my classes the other day, I was like, I hate people. And they thought I was kidding, and I partly was, but I was like, I'm not a really social person. I never have been. So for me, ways that I deal with stress is I like to just come home and just watch TV and just kind of let my mind think of anything else. Like, I love shows about like stuff that's like supernatural, or like criminal shows, like stuff that's like completely like different to my life. And then of course, like, I go on tangents thinking that I should be a police officer or something after watching certain shows. But I found, because I've been in college, including my undergrad, for almost 10 years now. And so I've found that for me, instead of like going out and doing things, that just sitting at home and taking kind of like a mental break, and just kind of relaxing and just focusing on TV and nothing else, that really, really helps me kind of not go into a full-blown panic.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I get that.
So for me, I am incredibly social, but with school and work, it's tough to be that way. So I don't have much of a family. I'm an only child, and my dad passed away about 18 years ago this month, actually. So September is a shitty month for me. But anyway, I find that when I spend time, or even with my friends, it's good. But so my husband and I actually just moved to Grand Rapids a year ago. So all my like familiarity and a lot of my friends are an hour and a half away, and I still talk to them, but I don't, like you said, I don't have a lot of free time. I mean, my husband is also in school full time online, and I'm in school full time online. My job is ridiculous, and and he works from home in IT, so his is great. But I mean, it's tough to burnout is real, and I understand that self-care is incredibly important, especially being in a mental health field. We all have learned that, but it's difficult to try to carve out time. Now, I don't have children, so, and I'm not going to have any. So it's, easier in that respect, but I guess you only know what you know. So like, I don't know having kids. I can imagine how incredibly stressful that can be. And to try to figure out time, especially when they're younger, you want to spend time with them, but you want to have your own stuff too. So, I mean, for me, I do the same thing Farron does. I come home and I watch trashy TV, and
It's the best.
It is.
I miss American reality shows.
I watch American reality shows, and so my husband kind of laughs at me. But we every weekend, minus today, usually we go. There's a bunch of hiking trails around Grand Rapids, and we pick a different one and we go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't much of an exercise person, but I had a health scare not too long ago. So it's time. My husband is in his 40s and I'm near 40. And, it brings things in perspective. And I don't want to die young because I'm stressed,
Right.
So,
yep.
And this can be a heart attack, stroke, kind of life sometimes. Behavioral health is no joke, and I don't think people realize it until they're in it. I mean, I worked at a behavioral health hospital. I got a concussion. I've been bitten, punched, kicked. So I thought, oh, working for CPS will be, a break, and I couldn't have been more incorrect.
Well, you have to deal with all the parents too.
Yeah.
So the parents are the worst.
That's what I've heard.
Like I had a family team meeting this week, and I mean, I just got, you should do your homework, and you're stupid, and like, I mean, yes, you're told don't take it personally, but how can you not when someone's calling you something personal?
Right.
I'm a heavier girl, and like to get called a fat C word isn't fun for me, and real. While you try not to let it take a toll on you, I'm sorry, it does. I don't care what anyone tells you. If you call somebody out of their name, it's hurtful, and it does. It just is, and yes, my life is better because I'm not getting my kids taken away, and I don't live in a drug house, and I don't live in a bug infested home, but like, those people can hurt you, and I understand they're hurting, on the objective side, but it's a lot.
No, that's true. I mean, that's what I was saying, like mental health. I don't know how it is over in Michigan, but I know out here in Arizona, it's The mental health community is absolutely nuts. They're everywhere. There is, you know, when people are talking about, oh, look at that homeless person on the corner. Well, you know, you never know what they were before they became homeless. And a lot of them with mental health issues, they weren't properly cared for. They, you know, the supports weren't there. You know, some of them are in and out of prison, given 30 days worth of meds. No resources, exactly, no resources. You know, some of them, I mean, when I worked in the prison, I had talked to guys that were like, yeah, I was getting my education, I was doing this and that, but they had no support. And they were like, you know, it was kind of hard to just stick with it. It's hard to do anything. Some of them become like that after many, many years of drug use. I mean, I had some say, well, I just kept getting high and eventually I got like this. And now.
Well, I think it's kind of fair to do a general assumption that most people, especially when it comes to like harder substances, most people don't just wake up one day and say like, I feel like trying heroin or meth or crack cocaine. Like, people don't just randomly wake up doing that. There's always some factor that's going on in their life, and it happens. And when they don't have the correct resources, if they don't have any of those family supports, things start to pile on them. And that was one thing I hated about Coronado Healthcare Center, which is why I'm glad your mother isn't there, is that we had a large population of drug addiction and homelessness, because the people who were there, they were there for complications due to IV drug use usually. So normally like heart problems, amputations of limbs, and they were usually not very nice, to say the least. Like Lindsay was saying, I've been called all those names and screamed at for things that aren't even in my control. I have no control of if your insurance company is going to let you leave this building to go to McDonald's. Like, they say if you're able to leave the facility that you're well enough to not be here and you have to go. That's not my fault. That's not my problem. I can't fix that. So please don't be nasty to me. But at the same time, you know, especially in the medical field, not necessarily the behavioral health field, the nurses and the doctors, the way they would speak about the patients, it blew my mind, and I couldn't handle it. You know, they weren't people to them anymore. You know, they would make jokes in our morning meetings on, if you see a homeless person in a mile radius of where we are, make sure that it doesn't say Coronado on the back of their wheelchair, and if it does, you need to take that back from them. Like, they just like completely insensitive. And yes, I understand that when they come in there, you know, they can be mean to us because they're withdrawing, and you know, they're just hurting. But at the same time, they're people too. So it's just kind of all those aspects, and a lot of it for them was they were burnt out, but a lot of it also is the medical model they were using as well, in the way they viewed the people there. It was insane. And with so I was a psychology major, and I'm sure we talked about this in counseling as well. You shouldn't refer to someone as their disease. You don't, you know, you shouldn't say, you know, that person's schizophrenic and then give them that label. You need to, or that person's a crackhead. Like, you shouldn't do that. You need to realize they're people and they just have that addiction or they have that disease. And that was something that just wasn't there at that place. It was terrible.
Even where I work now, it's the same thing. Like, we work, like I said, I work with kids with disabilities. So, you know, autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, all of that. And we don't label the kids. One of the biggest things for me is I work with one woman. She's an older woman, and she was kind of privileged because she grew up away from poverty and just, you know, just seeing what we've all seen and experienced. And so she didn't get it. And she was like, well, I just assumed everybody was going to be like me. And I had to explain to her, we can't make assumptions. You know, we're going into people's houses. We don't know how low and where they're at. You know, we're there to help them and to teach them and help them get the resources they need. You know, because she'll talk about going to like what is that? She just bought shoes from somewhere like Neiman Marcus and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, no, like you're dealing with we're dealing with people who don't have that luxury. You know, they don't know if they're gonna have money for medication. They don't know if they're gonna, you know, most of my families, they're on the ESA program to keep their kids in private schools for their children that have disability, because those schools specialize in the particular disability, and the public schools can't meet the need. And so, and like I told her, finances are a real problem. You know, education is a real problem. Like, this isn't something you're going to walk into and be like, oh, well, this is what you need and this is all you're going to get. Like, we can't do that.
I think it's important too, like when different generations, because so my mom is a psych nurse and my dad was a physician, and my dad was very much old school and cared about his patients, but my mom doesn't even think anxiety is a real thing. So, and I know, I'm serious. When I got diagnosed with it in my 30s, she's like, you don't have that. And I'm like, oh, well, it feels like it. And so, you know, she just doesn't, she thinks it's some kind of negative reflection on her, which it isn't. So I think, so when I worked in the psych hospital, you'd have older nurses that were my mom's age, you know, in their 50s and 60s, that kind of had that mentality. And when I went back to school, you know, I just graduated last year with my undergrad. And I would try to talk to my mom about like psychology and stuff. She's like, that's not accurate. I'm like, well, you haven't been to college since 1974. So maybe it is, you know, but, and that is a real number. And so I just think that, like Farron said, in Coronado, that the doctors felt like their medical model was askew. And I think that sometimes it's because of, you know, when they went to school and there's not like a lot of, you know, and so when you're a student, I feel like sometimes you have to take that into account, because like, what if your professor's been a professor for 40 years and hasn't renewed their way of thinking or their model of teaching, and you know, and it's just like,
that's so true.
You know, no, that's not how it works anymore. That's not how it should work anymore, you know.
Right, and I think that's why it's also so important that, you know, we're required to do the continuing education. We're constantly reading about it, how in order to stay up to date in the practices and make sure that we aren't committing harm to anybody, we really do have to be proactive and constantly researching new things. Even when we do, you know, get this master's degree in like 50 years from now with how this is all going. But we really do need to stay active and do the research, because things that could be working now or that we think are working now, 5 years from now, we can find out that it's causing a lot of psychological harm to people and we shouldn't be using them anymore.
That's very true. Very true.
So
we have to keep the education going. No, go ahead, hon. Go ahead.
Well, I just have a question. So we're talking about stress and stuff, and different ways of dealing with stress, and I think we kind of went down a path for a second. But I wanted to ask you guys, in May I started seeing a counselor and stuff, just to start working through my stuff, and I found it to be a really excellent stress reliever. Have you guys started seeing, like, I don't want to, if you don't want to share, that's totally fine, but like, have any of you started kind of trying to do that, just an hour a week or something, to try to start?
To be honest, I haven't, but I know I need to. My father passed away. It's going to be 5 years in November, and that's something I haven't dealt with. When he did pass away, I did go to substances. I was very heavy into alcohol, cocaine. I didn't want to be present. Obviously, I'm not that way now, but I still, it doesn't get easier. And I know that I need to go and speak to somebody about it, because I know that would just be a huge stress reliever for me. It's something that you unconsciously think about, that affects the way you think about things, the way you do things. I just, with this move and with school, I just haven't had the time. But that is one of my priority things to do while I'm here in Russia, is to go out and find a medical person that I can at least do some grief counseling with, because I feel like, yes, school is stressful, but I feel like that not being dealt with for me, I would be a much better person and would be able to handle stress much better if I got that resolved in myself. So no, I haven't yet, but the issue is finding someone who speaks English. So
I bet.
so I just gotta find an English counselor, and then I'm going.
You can do teletherapy too. You can do it online.
Yeah, that's true.
So my father passed away when I was 19, and I didn't deal with it for 10 years, and I got into drinking and drugs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what you just don't want to deal with it. It's tough. I get it. I went through the same thing, and I finally found a therapist in my, when I was 30 that changed my life, and she's the reason I went back to school.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a counselor and stopped seeing one in May, ironically, because I thought my job was going to get better, and I was wrong. So.
Oh no.
So.
No, I think that that's a really great topic to bring up, because one of the things that I've learned through this is that just because we're going into a counseling field does not negate the fact that we also need to seek help ourselves. I'm glad that you brought that up. I think that some people joke with me that that's kind of my new addiction is counselors. I've been in my own path of recovery, involved in 12-step recovery for the last 10 years. And in that 10 years, I've seen 3 different counselors. Usually graduate from them. I take a little break. I go back into step work with a sponsor, and then I go back and see another counselor.
Okay.
Me and my wife, we just got married a year ago, and we went and saw a couples counselor, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you guys have only been married a year, you guys are having problems, and both of us are in recovery. And we just decided, hey, we can talk and we have really great communication, but when we argue, we don't know how to argue with each other. It wasn't bad, it was just really quiet, and nothing's worse than having a quiet argument, especially if a man becomes quiet, then it's really troublesome.
Oh,
so yes.
Yeah, when my fiance gets quiet, I know it's bad.
exactly, because we're really confused at that point. We don't know where to go and what to do, and then it gets really really troublesome.
Yes.
So counseling has actually helped a lot. I think that that's helped me with a lot of my stress in school, and I have not contrary to popular belief, I have not utilized that time with a counselor to say, hey, listen, I'm a mental health student, and hey, what do you think of this? I don't ever really do that, but it's given me the opportunity to get rid of some of the underlying issues that I might be dealing with, mostly stress related, fear related, insecurity related, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And then I carry that on. I have a sponsor. I work with other addicts. I work with people who suffer with eating disorders. I suffer with people with sexual addictions, so on and so forth. The list just continues to go on that God's graced me with the ability to work with. And all of those things being of service give me an opportunity to see what it's going to be like in this field, as well as gives me an outlet. So, matter of fact, I had a guy tell me a long time ago when I was going through the beginning of all my issues. He listened to me, He says, okay, now I want you to go to a meeting, and I want you to find somebody who's having a lot of problems and talk to them. And I'm like, well, why does that person want to hear about my problems? And he says, no, that's not the point. He says, I want you to listen to their problems. And I became of service to that person. And once it became service to that person, I got a chance to step out of my own issues, see somebody else's issues, be able to work with them. And once I was able to work with them, I realized that my issues really were not as bad as what I thought they were. So I'm thankful that so many times through our readings and through our research, I find that there's so many of us out there that have think tanks. If they're working for an organization, they have opportunities where they have group counseling, where counselors all get together and have some group therapy and stuff. So there's help for us, and there's a necessity for us to understand and know that we need to find that help. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think that's huge. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, go ahead, hon.
I was you.
I did start counseling, and then I stopped. I went back to work. I started counseling when I was on maternity leave, but then I had to stop because the work schedule, it's really hard to just kind of schedule it in. So right now I'm on an as needed basis with my counselor. I started the counseling because at the time it was too many transitions, major transitions at one time. And then, like I said, I had lost my sister, so I dealt with my grief, but I hadn't finished like dealing with it, because at the time that I was grieving, I had to help with my mom because she, I went out of town to go see my sister. My sister passed on Easter holiday. So I had to be the one, since I was there, to call everybody and let them know that she had passed. And that included my mother. My mother was here in Arizona. She didn't go with me on vacation. So my mom was dealing with her grief, and then she was, heavy substance abuse because she was struggling with it. And then on top of that, I had to take in my niece and deal with the transition of that and raising another child and learning how to, I knew how to parent, but I had to relearn how to parent because each child is different. Each personality is different. So what I learned on how to parent the other two, I couldn't do it with her because she was so far behind in terms of her development and wanting to do things, that I had to really learn to control my anger and not yell all the time and lash out and stuff. So I did. I went to counseling because it was just way too much. And the counselor told me, he's like, dude, be careful, because you haven't finished dealing with your grief. That right now it's in a whole nother part of your brain. You're not thinking about it. You're keeping busy. You're doing all these things. But that moment you become still and quiet, it's going to come forward. And then that's when you're really dealing with it. But I was going to church and, just involving myself with other things to keep busy. And then I was like, you know what? I really need to go to counseling. Plus, I had things from my childhood that I hadn't finished dealing with, especially growing up in a home where there was alcohol and drugs, and it was just really bad. And just the sense of abandonment as a child and dealing with just the different things. So it was helpful to go to counseling. And I was like, you know what? And I told my fiance, I said, as a person going through counseling, anybody that says they don't need counseling, that's a lie. We're all jacked. We all need counseling, and we all need to keep working on ourselves. I'm like, I can't even work on our relationship until I work on me. I have to work on me. So you're not that important right now.
Well, and there's also that stigma, and it's kind of going away, and hopefully it just completely goes away, that if you go to counseling or to a psychologist or anyone in behavioral health, there's something wrong with you, really, really wrong with you. And I don't think that's necessarily true. You can go to counseling just to make sure that you are okay, stay okay, just so you have someone to talk to and who can give you an outside perspective of things.
I tell everybody that I see a counselor. My boss knows, my entire team at work knows, all of my family knows, because I believe in it, obviously dedicating myself to this program.
Yeah, right.
But I really do believe everybody has issues that they can work through. But I think to break that taboo, it's really important for us to share and be open about it, and not to feel that shame of going to a counselor or anything like that. In order to be a healthy person, I'm taking steps in the right direction, and I think other people, two things will happen: either they'll respect me for it or they'll leave, and that's okay, you know. It's a win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, man. The stresses of being a student.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So do you guys have any hobbies or anything that you like to do? I know we covered some of them, but
Who has time for hobbies?
Yeah, I don't. I need to. I used to do photography in high school, but I haven't done that in almost 10 years.
oh my gosh.
Now, I have a very in today's society, it's probably more of an unpopular hobby. I'm a sports shooter, so I'm not a hunter. I don't. I can go to a store and get whatever food I need, so I don't need to put anything on my table through that method. So I sport shoot, and it is actually a huge stress relief, but it's an extremely expensive hobby. So with kids and everything and all of them, I mean, granted, I keep telling them that my investment in my hobby is their college education, and it's okay. They can find a way of paying for their own, just like I did. But that's about it. Outside of that, I can't consider my recovery and what I do in that method a hobby, because it's more of a passion. It's not a hobby, and it's kind of a life. It's a what do you call it? A lifeline for me. So that's the closest to a hobby I have, is that, and it's not very often, so I don't have time for it.
I think that's awesome that you do that. In November, I'll be 10 years clean from heroin. So I tried the 12-step thing, and some people are good with meetings. I really wasn't. I'm not a sharer typically. So it's like, yeah, but that's really great that you do that. And I know a lot of people that are really magnificent people that are in the programs, and I know it can be really amazing. Like, your guys' passion and fire for it make me want to go participate. I love it.
It's a 12-step recovery and I get in a lot of trouble for this. There's more than one way to get clean. It's the main thing for most people that I deal with are just to have a desire to stop using and want to do something different. And once you want that, there's different avenues. People can get involved in church. There's 12-step ministries. There's also 12-step groups. I have people who have quit doing substance use, and they get involved in codependency, CODA, which is also a 12-step group. And then there's just some people that have just actually just turned their life around through counseling and gone a different direction and found a new outlet for life. And that's essentially what it all boils down to. So
One of the things that I got to experience, it was for one of the classes, and I was like, I gotta do what? And being a person who's never used, I mean, yeah, I have the occasional drink here and there, but I was like, I was just like, wondering, how do I fit into this? I'm going to be going to this, and I have no idea what I'm walking into. I don't know if they're going to really accept me in there, because I've never experienced what they're experiencing and going through. So I went to a Celebrate Recovery program for one of the classes at one of the local churches over here off of Peoria, just east of 67th Avenue. And it was a really good eye-opening experience. Not just, in terms of like going in and being a counselor and having to learn all of this, but even from a personal standpoint, because we had the group that I got put in, we had to go around and introduce ourselves. And I told them, I said, I myself am not an addict. I said, but I am the mother, the daughter, the sister, well, not the mother, but the daughter, the sister, and the ex-wife of an addict. I'm like, not just drugs, but also drinking. I said, so I've seen what it can do. And I'm like, I don't really know what to take from this. I'm not going to really say a whole lot, because I don't have a lot to add. I'm like, but I kind of want to learn, I want to understand and kind of connect to really know, what it's like for people that are going through that, because it's harder for us who don't go through it and don't have those problems to truly understand what anybody else who is going through it is really going through. Because they, it might be anxiety, it might be stress, it might be, any kind of negative thing, but because it doesn't show on the outside, we don't get it. And so that, for me, on top of going to regular counseling, really helped me to understand what my mom and my sister and my mom's ex was going through, and my ex-husband, and just the different things that lead to it, and what they can do to go through getting themselves together. But it's more of a want to than everybody else around them pushing. And I've told people, we can't force. It's not our place. We have to step back. And that's what I did. And I had people angry with me, especially with my mom, because I didn't talk to her for a while. I had to leave her alone. I'm like, you know what? I talk to her when she's sober, but when she's not sober, I don't talk to her. I can't put myself through that stress. And it was just easier that way. And I told people, stop pushing her. The more we push, the more they go to what we're trying to, push them away from. We can't. And that Celebrate Recovery, that program really helped me to learn that, because they did. They said, we fell more than one time. We relapsed more than one time. It took a while to understand it. It took this happening for me to understand that I have a problem. It took that happening. So with, just that, and then going to counseling, I was like, wow, this is, these people, we're everyday people, and we don't think about it. Somebody who's got this executive job, we would never think that, oh, they have a problem, because they don't look like the problem that they have. So it's the same with going and getting counseling. Even as a counselor, we don't look like we need counseling, but the reality is we need it. We need to go. We can't help our clients if we're not taking care of ourselves, especially on the mental aspect. Like, it's so important. It really is.
Agreed.
I think that's so wonderful that you went and checked it out and were open to that experience, because I can see the other side of it, where there would be a lot of resentment towards addiction in general. And I think that's so cool that you went and you were so open to it, on behalf of them, and obviously for the program and everything else. But that's really wonderful that you had that mind frame when you went.
Agreed. So one thing that I'm getting also from this is that so a lot of us have, and I'm very thankful that once again that topic got brought up about the self-help for us. Obviously, it leads me into another question that I'd like to understand and know is, for me, one of the disadvantages of being involved in a 12-step recovery is that I get a lot of, I was just talking to a person last night about this. Addicts, as an example, I call them emotional vampires. Okay, and it's not because they do it on purpose intentionally, but it's that part of that nature is to attach themselves to somebody and emotionally drain that person until they're, and it doesn't go just with addiction. It goes with all mental illness. It's because you got someone who needs help, like a small child, and they leech onto somebody who's willing to give them help, and they just keep taking the energy, and they don't know how to replenish and give back. With that said, do we find, like for myself, I have to put up a lot of barriers. I sponsor less people now that I'm in school. I work less with people. I do way less 12-step calls because of the fact that I don't have the emotional energy that I used to have before school. Do you find that as you go through life, with family members, with friends, you get a friend that comes up and goes, oh, I want to tell you about this situation I'm having with my wife or my husband or whatever, that you find yourself kind of backing off a little bit and saying, hey, look, I can't help you with this, in one way or another. Do you find yourself that you have to reserve yourself a little bit more now that you're a student than you did before you were a student?
Yes.
So I find myself that I'm that person. Do you know that I'm the one that will call a friend or
Okay.
complain to my husband about whatever, and I don't want to hear anybody else's stuff because I feel like, not that my stuff's more important, because I don't think that, but like just that I feel like I'm not capable of taking anything more on, I guess. I feel also some of my anxiety consumes me. And so, like, not that it's an excuse, but like, that's some of the things that happen, that I get consumed up in my own stress in my own life, that I'm like, I don't have room for your stuff, even though that I expect you to have room for mine. Do you know?
Yep.
So, yeah, I find that, yeah, I'm kind of the person that does that instead of maybe, I don't know.
No, I get that.
It depends on my situation, I suppose. Like if I'm like legitimately about to like have a mental breakdown, jump out a window or something, then I'll be that. then I'll be that emotional vampire. But usually, I'm the person that people come and talk to about their problems, and with school and working and everything like that, I do have to back off a little bit because I'm traditionally a fixer. If someone tells me any kind of a problem, I start thinking of, okay, what can I do to fix this? Even though it's usually not something I can fix, but that's where my brain goes. So if my friend's telling me, I need money for rent and it's due tomorrow, like I'm starting to think of ideas and things. And I've really had to try and stop myself because it's not healthy to take on that much of someone else's emotions and baggage.
Yep, I agree.
It's a balance. It's finding a balance.
Yep, it is so true.
I don't want to be insensitive either.
No, but that's so true. I deal with a lot of people doing that where they're emotionally draining. And I actually I had to learn to set up healthy boundaries and learn to tell people no, because I was one of those people that would always just say okay. And after I would be just like, I would be so drained that it wasn't just emotional, it was mental too, and I would be losing my own mind. So I got to a point to where, that's why I said I have friends and I really don't talk to them that much. It's because I'm okay with that, because I know when I talk to them, it's something happened and it's a problem and they want somebody to listen. So I've also learned to ask them, is this a problem that you want me to sit there and listen to you talk and that's it, or do you want me to have some input and maybe help you fix this? And so they'll tell me what they want, and a lot of times it's just to listen, and that's what I do. And then after a while, I'll kind of retreat and go back into just kind of processing it. And I do a lot of journaling to help with dealing with everybody and their emotional stuff going on around them. Because sometimes when you're replaying in your mind the conversation that you had, and I'm one of those people that can remember conversations from like 3 years ago, and I'm like, hey, remember when you said this and this and this and this and this? And they're looking at me and they're like, when did this happen? Or they'll talk to me about somebody and I'm like, oh, that's your sister or your whoever, and you told me this story, so this is the continuation. And so I've had to learn to kind of just put it on paper, and kind of it helps to just release that emotional baggage. I like going to the beach. So like when it's just really overwhelming, I will, if I can get away by myself, I will drive to the beach. I will drive that 6 hours
Good idea.
and go sit there and just be in peace in the cooler weather. And I take my Bible, I take my journal, and then that's just my time to really just decompress and take care of myself. And I get people calling me, where are you at? Oh, this happened. I should have went with you. No, like this is my time. Like I needed this to just get away from all the stressors of what's going on around me.
Yeah.
I think that for me, like starting counseling and stuff, like I didn't have healthy boundaries before. So my mom and my ex-husband are both extreme emotional vampires, whatever. They so I didn't have any boundaries when it came to that, and now I'm starting to realize that I'm setting those boundaries, and mainly because my counselor's helping me work through it. But doing that does help me decrease the amount of stress I have. My ex-husband, once we broke up and I was trying to do the divorce and everything, he wasn't paying for childcare, but he went ahead and he bought a Harley Davidson instead. And so things like that were like so draining for me, because I was like, and I was realizing that like my expectations of who these people should be, or them caring about me the way I care about them, all those expectations and things that I think should exist don't, and just kind of really realizing all of that and putting everyone where they kind of go in my life and prioritizing where everyone's at is actually has been really helpful for stress. So
that's really cool that you bring that up. I really like that you brought that up about prioritizing and kind of compartmentalizing. And so my mom has got narcissistic personality disorder, not that she'd ever admit that. So that can be very stressful, and like I had said, we don't get along, which is stressful. But so I'm an only child, which is awesome, and I don't have a dad because he died, so it's just my mom and I. So I guess I feel like she should want to be involved in my life and want to whatever. And when I went back to school, she told me I'd never amount to anything. Well, then I graduated and I'm in my master's, and because I'm in the same field that she went into, and she's got more experience, obviously, she seems to think that, excuse me, that she knows everything. Which I'm not saying she doesn't know a lot, but she's not even open to having a discussion with me. So I don't talk to her about school. So then when we moved and I moved over here, and she refuses to come see me, and it's always like some kind of thing that I need to fit in her schedule. Well, she's retired now, so that's not how it works. And it's very stressful to try to want a relationship with your mother. I feel like is natural, but to have her not want a relationship back the way that you need it is stressful. So like I take a lot of my counseling skills from being a student, or try to kind of employ those with her. But she always says when we get into arguments, don't you use that psychology stuff on me. I mean, I feel like that's what keeps you calm, is to use psychology stuff. So it's incredibly draining to have a mother in the psychology field not respect or even honor your opinion or like accomplishments or accolades. And I just don't talk to her about school. I'll put something on Facebook occasionally and she'll like every freaking status, which is passive aggressive, but she won't.
Yeah.
I mean, I can count on one hand how many times she's asked me how school is going or what's going on, and she just says, well, you're smart. Cool. Like, if it had not been for my husband, I would not have made it through school or as far as I have, and I'm thankful. But it's stressful. You want your mom in your life, or a parent, or whatever it is. And when they're not, it can be stressful in all aspects of your life, including like school for me when I have something in common with her. So it's draining. So I understand that.
We got to learn to surround ourselves with the people who support us. I mean, whether we're a student or just working a regular job, no matter what it is we're doing, we got to learn to just support ourselves with people that are positive and happy for us and are supporting us in whatever it is we're doing. That is something that I learned. I had people that are like, oh yeah, I'm happy for you. I'm so glad that, you're doing that. But then I had those people that were there that were really like celebrating the things that I was doing. And, we tend to, especially as students, we always want to focus on the people who are sort of kind of there while we're getting our education, because we really, really want them to support us during that journey. And a lot of the times it is parents or siblings or whatever. But then we have the other people that we know they're supporting us, but we kind of just have our back turned to them at the time because we're so focused on everybody else. So like I learned, I said, yeah, my mom supports me and stuff, and my family does, whoop-de-doo. But like my ex-husband's family, when I graduated, they were there, they showed up, they made a point to really show like, we support you, we are happy that you are committed to this and you're doing this. And they made sure that if I needed help, they were there to help. So we really do, we got to learn to pay attention to the actual supports that are really rooting for us, no matter what's going on in life.
True.
I agree with that. I have I can't commend or put into words the support group that I have. I mean, like I said, I have a troop of children, all of which support me. Matter of fact, all my older children are all back in school because I'm in school. They're like, well, Dad can do it. I guess I don't have an excuse why I can't do it, which is really, really cool. But I mean, and I'm still blessed to have my mom in my life. And she, unfortunately, she's going through, because she's 90 years old, so she's going through not dementia, or yeah, dementia, not Alzheimer's. So I mean, I mess with her a little bit. She forgets what I'm in school for. She remembers I'm in school, but she forgets. So every once in a while, I'm a law student, and sometimes I'm a doctor. So she gets to have all these different things. But the core behind it is that she's extremely proud of me because of where I was, the direction I was going in, and the direction I have come. She still remembers all of that. So I have a very strong support system, but I do have family members that are jealous because of my past and where I came from. I was supposed to amount to nothing. That was the direction I was going in, and so all of a sudden, when things reversed and went a different direction, they're I shouldn't say what their emotional status is. It's just that they're not happy about it. They don't share that same enthusiasm that I do with it, and I have to distance myself from them because they, like Cheryl had said, is that they're not conducive to the direction I want to go in, and if they're not conducive, they can't jump on that train. So, but family members, for me, that's easy for me to disconnect. For me, I'm a little bit of a people pleaser, so it's not so much family members I really care much about. It's my peers. No matter how old I got to be, cool, hip, and slick, So, so I have a lot of problems with trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, in the fact of like trying to do everything. That's where I burn myself out. I get stressed out, as well as trying to overachieve in school. I was kind of hoping we'd have that topic on there, overachieving in school. That would be a topic I could do a 2-hour group on myself. So, anyways, with that, that's it. Well, Cheryl, where do we go with this?
That I'm trying to figure out my own self, because we kind of covered, all the stressors of being a student. I mean, think about it. I mean, financial, most of us were taking care of ourselves,
Yes.
we're trying to pay bills and deal with school and pay for school, and we have student loans, we're trying to figure that out. Yeah, fun.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Man.
Oh yeah,
It's a
and then
nightmare.
just the self-care behind it. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this for me, is as a student, we need to really make sure we're caring for ourselves, not just everybody else around us and making sure we're present for school, but taking care of ourselves, and just like we said, go to counseling, go to have some kind of support.
Yes.
That doesn't really know us, because then it's kind of easier to go talk to somebody that doesn't know you, because then they can't, I mean, yeah, they might place judgment, everybody judges, but it's harder for them to judge because they weren't with you every single day while you're dealing with whatever situation. So for me, like the whole making sure we're getting counseling, especially as students, that is very, very important. We have to.
Yeah.
I agree. I really got a lot out of this. I was kind of skeptical. I was like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
But I have to tell you that this is the very first time, and for me, it's been 6 years of going to school. Almost seems like nonstop, and this is the first time I've interacted with students. So I'm not so much. I don't feel like so much of an academic hermit anymore. But it's good to work with my peers and see that the stuff that's inside rattling between my ears and stuff isn't just my own stuff. And to see that you guys are actually doing the exact same things that I'm doing, finding support systems. You guys are seeking or willing and open-minded and honest enough to seek help outside of yourselves, especially going into the career we're going into. There is this thought process inside my head that tells me that, hey, if I can't help myself, how am I going to help other people? And boy, that's a rabbit hole that's just going to put me under. I'm telling you. So I really got a lot out of this. This was actually really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree.
Hopefully next week my camera will be working. I'm gonna make my husband take a look at it so you can see me as well as I see you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have my fiance check out my camera so that I'm not permanently bat lady.
My husband came out here to get some D. He's like, "Well, she's upside down." I'm like,
Yeah.
But you
it's
did
cool.
say that
I'm
you
a
bought
vampire.
your laptop in Russia, right?
Yes, it's a Russian laptop.
So theoretically, Russia would be almost upside down on the globe to us. So it almost theoretically
That's
makes
appropriate. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, welcome to Russia. This is how my life has been. My camera's upside down. Like, it's not surprising. But yeah, I'm going to have John take a look at this because this is ridiculous.
I have a question. Were you guys able to turn in the first assignment yet?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
So with that, at the top of the assignment page, and I looked at this week's, the same thing. So there's a spot that says join a group. We're supposed to be able to click that.
Click it.
It'll pull up the groups, and we're supposed to be able to click join. But the groups have not been set up in that part of the assignment. So even though we're operating in a group, we're unable to join the group to be able to turn in our assignments. She said that she was going to talk to the IT to figure out what's wrong in order for us to be able to turn in our assignments. So we're going to see how this goes. We could turn in our own like personal, like the
discussion questions.
One. Yeah, the second one, we're able to turn that in because it's our own individual. But the one for the group, the first worksheet we got to turn in, we have to see if it got fixed.
Are you talking about like the peer review? We can turn in our own, and then the assignment, like the first assignment underneath it. Is that what you're talking about? Under week 2, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the week 2 one we're able to turn in ourselves. It's the week 1, the week 2 assignment 1 that is for the whole group. So we got to see if we're able to turn it in. If not, I'm just gonna do like I did last week and give it to her in the private forum, so she has it. Because I was told by my advisor that if we're not able to turn in an assignment because of whatever reason on our side, as long as it's not a technical issue, we're able to give it to her and she's able to turn it in for us through the link. So
your advisor is able to, you mean?
The instructor is.
The instructor is, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so like next week I've got I guess I'm presenting next week, and with that said, so I probably will get with you, Sherelle, to make sure if this hasn't been fixed by then, so that I make sure that I get the recording, because you have to turn in the recording as well, right?
We do, and I was trying to, it says that we're supposed to be able to record to the cloud. I have no idea what that is or where it's at.
And I don't know what that means. I don't know how
to. I have no idea. I'm completely non-technical at all.
So I put the link on the worksheet. So that's what I've been doing, but I might attach a separate page with nothing on it with a link to the video so she can see it.
Okay.
How do you get the link? Does it just automatically generate when you put up a meeting?
So there's a spot on the top where when we schedule our meetings, you
Yes.
can make it to where it automatically records right when we start.
Okay.
Okay.
And then once it's over, it'll start saving itself directly to your computer. And then it'll be right in your documents, and it'll say Zoom. And then usually when it's like that, it'll, like mine, I have 3 different, already from the last time, I have 3 different ones where I can click on it and it'll play back. It'll open it and show.
Okay.
So I'm still trying to figure out the whole cloud thing. I don't understand where that's at to really be
I'm
able to
just worried.
utilize
I'm
it.
just worried in general about handing. Just nervous about that it won't save it. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, well, as far as not saving it, I mean, I understand the whole cloud thing. Intel's huge. That's our whole bread and butter now, is doing all these servers that are essentially, I mean, you're no longer really going to have, in the years to come, hard drives on your computer anymore. Your computer is just going to hook straight up to the internet, and the internet's going to contain all of your data. This is essentially where we're going technology-wise. So the cloud is nothing more than a large, gigantic hard drive that is easily accessible from any station that you go on, from your phone to your laptop to your watch to whatever you might have. So that's essentially what the cloud is. It's taking it off your computer now and putting it into a main distribution that you can access from any kind of peripheral. So
Okay.
if that helps any.
Yeah.
That's my bread and butter.
Show me how to do it then if you're in the area.
I cannot show you how to do it. That's the only problem. I have iCloud. I also have a personal cloud here at home that I utilize and stuff, and I cannot access them hardly ever. I just barely got my iCloud to where my schoolwork, I can access it all the time. But outside of that, I only know how it works. I just don't know how to work it. If that makes any sense. So.
Well, we
So
can
I'm
always
just telling
put
on
everything
myself.
in the Google Drive too.
Yeah, that's
That's kind of like what I wanted to create it for, so that if any of us have any assignments, or if we find an article and we want people to read it beforehand or whatever, we can just put it in that folder, and that way everyone can see it, can edit it.
Yep.
good to me.
All right. So are we all good with 7 o'clock AZ time?
Most definitely.
See you on
Yeah.
Saturday.
Does this all work
All
for
right.
everybody?
Yep.
All right.
All right.
I have a week to get better, so I won't be all sniffling inside the mic for next week. So, all right,
Hopefully
and
I
then we'll
figure out
continue
my
to communicate
camera.
through the email. Yeah, and you have to fix your camera, otherwise I'm
Let's
gonna
fix
have
my
to
camera.
continually sit here every time you're talking. Get a crick in my neck. So.
No, I'm actually
And then-
just sitting on my ceiling. I lied. I'm totally on my ceiling right now.
Well, I don't know what you do with your hair to keep your hair down. I mean, obviously mine I can keep down, but that's a little easier. And Lindsay, I'm glad that you were able to join inside the group. That's awesome to hear you. Even if we can't see you, it's still okay.
Sorry, I promise I'll try to get I told my husband, I'm like, my camera's not where he says it's not compatible. He's like, he starts laughing. He's like, we'll fix it. I'm like,
We'll fix it. Right on. Right on. All right. Sherelle?
I think that's it. I don't have anything else to add. I'm gonna get this all done and figured out, and then it'll be turned in.
Okay.
Yeah. That's about it.
Can you, like, whatever you find out from the instructor, or if you have any issues, let us know through the email. I liked how you were doing that last week. You were keeping us up to date, so it helped out with me knowing, okay, so what troubles am I going to have next week, so on and so forth.
yeah.
Okay.
So, awesome. Well,
Thanks, everyone.
everyone.
Nice to
All
meet you
right,
all.
guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye,
See you
guys.
guys next Saturday.
See you next
Yes,
Saturday.
definitely.
Saturday.